Welcome to the Digital Enterprise Society podcast, addressing all aspects of the digital enterprise, inspiring connection without boundaries and creation without limits. Thank you for tuning in. Here are your hosts, Tom Singer and Craig Brown.
Hey there, you have just found another episode of the Digital Enterprise Society podcast. Thank you so much for coming along on the journey of this podcast that we designed to be a resource for those who work in and around PLM. The Digital Enterprise Society is the forum for the exchange of ideas surrounding the tools, processes, and practices used across the product lifecycle. To learn more, visit digitalenterprisesociety.org. My name is Tom Singer, and I have the honor to co-host this show with Craig Brown. Craig is an industry veteran and former PLM leader at General Motors. Hey, Craig, how are you today?
I'm good, Tom. It's good to hear your voice. You know, that former is getting older and older, right? One of these days, I'll just have to say, yep, semi-retired. That's the way it is.
Well, I guess you're always the former PLM leader at General Motors.
Yeah, but after 2 years, who cares, right?
I care, Craig. I care.
Okay.
I care very much. So we're going into a brand new year, and a lot of people want to leave 2020 far behind them. So,
well, yeah, you know, good news. I mean, everybody that listens to our broadcasts, you know, the here in the United States and in the United Kingdom, the vaccine is rolling out. Man, that's just fabulous news. It really is. I mean, there'll be more hurdles, but my goodness, maybe it's the beginning of the end. Wouldn't that be fabulous?
That would be awesome. But, you know, I love the transition from an old year to a new year, even in the best of times, because I always like to look forward. And I think that's what we're going to do today. We're going to take a look at the Digital Enterprise Society and where we're going in 2021 and beyond. But every single week, Craig and I try to bring to this podcast really interesting interviews, conversations, and other ideas that are going to help all our listeners enhance and grow their careers. And that's the purpose of the Digital Enterprise Society. So today we have Adam Specht, and he is the IT Director, Product Development for the DRiV division of Tenneco, and he is also the new president of the Digital Enterprise Society. Hey, Adam, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Tom, thanks for having me. Hey, Craig, how's it going?
It's great, and it's really good to talk to you again.
It is. I think you might now have the record for how many times someone has been on the show. We've had several people that I know offhand have been on twice, but I don't know that anyone has actually been on the show 3 times.
Well,
fantastic.
But to be fair to Adam, we didn't really give him a chance to talk last time. We got centered on supply chain things from a supplier's point of view down the food chain. And well, anyways, today we'll fix that. And we got a lot of other things to talk about, including 2021.
Excellent. Yeah.
So Adam, remind everybody who you are and your short summary of how you got to where you are. I mean, things are changing at Tenneco as well, so maybe update us there.
Yeah. Everything is constantly changing. You know, it's Detroit. It's constantly moving, shall we say? Tom got the mouthful of my position out correctly. No stumbles there. So I am for our DRiV division of Tenneco, in charge of all of our CAD, CAM, CAE tools, supplier data exchange functionalities, and PLM. So my career started out as a mechanical engineer. I've done several PLM implementations, including Eigener back in the day, SAP, Teamcenter. Recently, I did Teamcenter for what was Federal Mogul Motor Parts, now the DRiV division of Tenneco, shall we say. So I've worked on the mechanical engineering side of it. I've worked a lot with business processes and a lot with the tools that we now use. So my role is primarily IT at this point. I made the jump to the dark side about 7-8 years ago. And I'm not looking back at this point. Yeah.
The dark side. You and I have talked about this in the past. You know, the point is the PLM leaders, right? We probably have an engineering background, even if we spend 90% of our day with IT people. And I actually hand it to Tenneco to realize that, and putting you in your current position. I think this is one of the shortcomings of some of the IT departments is they put in people that know how to build apps and maybe know how to do it with 4th generation languages, but they really don't get how we engineer products. And so I think having somebody who's engineered products in the job of PLM leader is really important. Let's not talk about your company. Let's talk about the Digital Enterprise Society. So congratulations on your appointment, election to the leadership of the Digital Enterprise Society. You are the next one in a long list of PLM world leaders and board members. And as you and I know, but maybe our audience doesn't remember, we kind of passed as I retired. You came onto the board, and now you're going to be the chair of it. So tell me what your plan is for 2021 for the areas of focus for the Digital Enterprise Society.
Well, there's several of them actually. Say about 6 months ago, we were talking about where we want to take the Digital Enterprise Society. And there's a group of us that kind of got together and ran several workshops and sessions where we started calling ourselves Digital Enterprise Plus, so DES Plus. And
cool.
what we tried to do with it really is identify several areas of focus that we really want to establish as foundational for digital enterprise. One of them is this, the podcast. We think that there are a lot of opportunities for us to provide education to our members, to provide the ability to communicate with each other, to talk about networking, to learn about lots of new things. So the podcast is something that is going to continue to be core to us, and we want to definitely focus on that.
Well, cool.
So
bring everybody listening, if you want to say something or you got a topic you want us to cover, let us know. We'll figure it in.
You know, we've been doing this for a year and a half, and what I like is when I hear from somebody who listens to the show, who just sends an email kind of out of the blue and just says, by the way, I really liked that interview. And so I know that people are listening, and I know that people like the education and sort of that career focus and ways to kind of, take themselves to the next level. So I'm excited to see where we go with the podcast this coming year.
Yeah, and I view this as kind of one of the puzzle pieces that makes up Digital Enterprise Society, right? And what our goal has been as we've kind of put this vision together is to identify lots of different puzzle pieces that make up the whole thing that can be collaborative, could we say, or maybe collaborational in how we work this. So we have this podcast, right? That's great. There are some people that know about this and some people that listen to it. But how do we grow that? How do we get more listeners? And how do we use the podcast to then help people understand that there's other aspects of the Digital Enterprise Society? So for example, webinars. We have certain webinars that we've done with our Career Center, where we talk about how you can network, how you can grow your career, how you can do certain things there. They are complementary. Another thing that we're talking about doing is to create something that we're going to call our partner directory. So if you think about an Angie's List style thing for PLM providers, or process companies that can help you analyze things and develop new tools for you, new processes, we can work with our partners on this that we have that are our financial supporters and advertisers, and give them all a platform to talk about themselves. And what this all does for us with all these puzzle pieces is kind of develop this hopefully somewhat homogeneous way of doing all of the same kind of thing with many different facets. It's all going to be about teaching. It's all going to be about learning. It's all going to be about networking and communication. And all of this kind of works together as part of this community. That's really what we're trying to develop, is a collaborational educational community with this overarching idea of the digital enterprise as that kind of backbone.
Yeah, you know, Adam, when we coined the term digital enterprise, it was well before the pandemic. We wanted to say something different than PLM because we wanted to emphasize more than the classic drawing and modeling and then release of that. So the much broader view, right? And I like where you're going with the collaboration. You know, the pandemic has made collaboration a heck of a lot more important, right? And some companies, and I'm guessing you're one of them. I've seen other, if you will, technology-based companies. they've been amazingly resilient through this pandemic hit. There's others that maybe were contractors, and like all contractors, they're kind of the first to go when you got an economic hiccup, we'll call it, right? And so I think having a community, an exchange, I like your term, Angie's List. And for those that don't remember what that is, Google it, you'll find it. But a community of saying, there's solution providers, even if they're just integrators, that have a lot of skills, and they're available to us other companies that are actually improving during the pandemic. They're not stopping work. They're able to work from home, and they can improve collaboration. So I like this idea of an exchange. I guess make it personal. Have you seen a improvement in collaboration either within the society or at Tenneco? And how would you couch that? What helped improve the collaboration? Was it just necessity, or was it something else?
Well, in some respects, yes. In some respects, no. There are areas where we haven't really figured out how to do things 100% effectively. And I don't think anybody really has done that. And those would be areas where you're trying to do workshops focused on process and the whiteboarding and those kinds of things. The virtual tools that we have are okay, but the fact of the matter is having a workshop with 10 people in a room, a big whiteboard, some sticky notes, and some markers goes a long way. There's not a way to reproduce that in the virtual world that I have seen effective.
Yeah.
However,
you're right. The things like Teams, there's one person writing at a time. The cool thing about whiteboarding is you can have 4 groups going on in parallel, and then you can sync up at the end of the day, right?
Well,
exactly.
And there are some tools that exist out there. I've been in several conferences where they've had like a whiteboarding tool where everyone can write at once and move like little stickies around. And it's good, but it's still not the same as having that electricity of being in the same room with other people. So
exactly. And you can't see body language. You can't see their faces because you're looking at the screen. It's just not as efficient, I don't think. And I'll be surprised if my generation, Gen Xer, if we're able to get there. The kids that are coming out now, like the 20 somethings, or my kids who are, 10 years old, for example, it's going to come much more naturally to be able to collaborate efficiently for them. But fact of the matter is, in the professional workplace, I've not seen the workshops be as effective remote. That said, the area where we have gotten better, I think, is global corporations. So my team has people outside of Chicago. I have team members in India. I have team members in Poland. I have team members in Belgium, all over the world. Before the pandemic hit, we would have phone calls. We would have, Skype calls, and they'd be okay. However, I think everybody over the past year has gotten a lot better at communicating. The way that we are right now is just seeing we're using Microsoft Teams, for example, but WebEx, Zoom, it all kind of does the same thing. A lot of us have gotten better at doing this type of a thing. So for my teams that are scattered all over the world, we've gotten much more effective in having team meetings. We've gotten much more effective at having collaborative one-on-one calls where we're all over the place. So I don't necessarily think that it's all bad and all good. I think there's certain areas where the technology needs to catch up, or maybe us old farts need to catch up. But it's there's pieces of it.
It's funny. You're not an old fart, dude. I'm an old fart. Okay.
Well, you do bring.
You're a soon-to-be old fart. Okay.
Well, you do bring up an interesting comment about how much more comfortable people are getting because, in addition to this show, I host 3 other podcasts, and both this show and the other ones, I'm finding as we come in through Zoom or Teams or whatever, people are way more comfortable doing the interviews than I think they were a year ago, because a lot of the people who I interview, they weren't used to being on, video and audio and being recorded. Where fast forward to the beginning of 2021, everybody's like, oh yeah, okay.
The other skill that I think that it's taught people is how to listen, right? Because what we've found, like when I get on a Zoom call with my family members that aren't doing this all day long, everybody talks over everyone else. There's no real way to figure out who should be speaking. However, when I'm in my professional life, people know how to sit back, let someone say something, because they know if everybody's talking at the same time, nobody's going to hear anything. So we've gotten a lot better, that piece of it.
Yeah. The thing that amazes me is, just who's benefiting, right? If you talk about the pandemic upsides, you know, the Microsofts and Amazons of the world, and then tool vendors that can be cloud-based, let me say it that way, boy, they haven't been hurting at all. And in fact, their sales are up over their projections of a year ago. While some conventional, both tool vendors and maybe the older stream. So I'm thinking of the WebEx community and the Skype community, which is a different part of Microsoft, admittedly. But it's interesting. Those tools have faltered a little bit, and you know, some people were using this. I'm going to forget the name of it. Well, anyways, and they have not come forward. So it's just been interesting to watch who's bubbling up to the top of the collaboration scheme. And I think you're right, Adam, that there are skills you need. You know, the listening carefully, but also knowing you're going to get your turn, knowing what's the relevant topic of the day. I think there's some skills there that could be taught, and maybe that's something we should do with the Digital Enterprise Society. Is you know, here we are a year, we're going to have another year. I mean, there's great news and vaccines starting to come out, but it's going to take a while before we all get it, and we'll have to deal with the other surprises that come along the way. So what do you think? Do you think there's a webinar in here for how best to use virtual collaboration while you work from home?
I think that there's actually a couple of them. There's
okay.
how to collaborate virtually, you know, best tips and tricks, maybe even focusing on a tool that people have really nailed down. You know, I've been working with Microsoft Teams for the past year now, and I find new tips and funky things in it daily. So there's one, how to use the tools.
Well, did you even use it before the pandemic, or did it just start?
Really. It was just starting right before it.
Yeah, I mean, I was a WebEx Skyper, right?
Yeah,
that's everything we were taught, and
exactly same here.
And now there's Teams and there's Zoom and there's a couple others, and it's interesting, right?
But they're collaboration tools. It's not just communication tools now. You're looking at collaboration suites where you exchange data. The concept of just typing emails is going away, and the idea is more real-time back and forth type collaboration, rather than, you know, spending 20 minutes to write an email. It's a couple lines and then attach a file somewhere and say, hey, check this out. Those kinds of things. Right. It's just a different mode of communication.
So are there other areas you want the Digital Enterprise Society to focus, your DES Plus team, as you were talking about them?
Well, yeah, I think that, you know, one of the things that everybody is missing right now are conferences, I would say.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
I like seeing your face on Zoom, my friend, but gee whiz,
I know. I'd rather have a beer or shake your hand.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and some of us miss it more than others, since I make my living as a professional master of ceremonies and keynote speaker. It's been a rough year, man.
I'm sure. And you know, that's actually one thing that we intentionally didn't try and do. We talked about doing a couple of virtual conferences, but when we attended the ones that were there, I saw a lot of challenges with them, and I didn't think that we had the bandwidth, the resources to make it really be good. However, once we have the vaccines in place, as you alluded to earlier, hopefully the second half of 2021, we can get back to a little bit of face-to-face type stuff. So I think that we have some opportunities to partner with other conferences that are bigger, maybe more established, that need a group like us to come in and help support presentations, you know, communication, facilitation. There's areas for us to help out with that. I'd also like to see us resurrect some of the regional user group concepts. However, it being a little more partner agnostic, shall we say. So yeah. I want to make sure that we separate ourselves from Siemens. They're an awesome company. I've got nothing bad to say about them, but I see a lot of value in having a conference where we're talking about not just Teamcenter or NX, but being able to talk about, well, let's talk about design strategies. Let's talk about how we might go about solving problems, or let's talk about how we might develop a business process regardless of the tool set. And what would be really awesome is if we can pull in people that use the Dassault tools, the Siemens tools, the PTC tools, the SAP tools, and be able to talk more focused on strategy and collaboration and best practices regardless of what buttons you click on the tool.
Yeah, you're right on. The aerospace industry, especially the commercial aerospace industry, they're not single vendor, right? There's a couple big vendors, and then the smaller aircraft companies are using some of the startups. They would all love a forum where we could talk about design strategies for retrofitting aircraft or design strategies for new electric propulsion aircraft, right? And the way the conferences evolved to being single vendor events, whether it's Amazon Drive-In One or IBM or now Siemens and the others, I get why they want to do that, to show a synergy tool chain. But in reality, the supply chain has all the vendors, all the tool vendors. And so exchanges, and I don't really mean file exchanges anymore. I mean exchanges of our designs, of our experiences, of our field results. That all wants to be in a collaborative environment. And I don't think it'll be one vendor. It might be a Microsoft orchestrating it, maybe, I don't know. But it needs to be a group of smart engineers. I think cross-industry brings lots of insights, right, to solving problems. The car guys can learn from aircraft guys can learn from car guys,
and we can learn from the CPG guys too, you know.
Yeah, and the I don't know, I think this collaborative notion about generative design and additive manufacturing, it's coming. It's going to come fast. My former employer is advertising parts in their new Cadillac that were printed, right?
They just announced a whole new 3D printing thing. Very cool looking, but yeah, it's coming.
Yeah,
it's there.
It of course it doesn't happen overnight, right? I'm glad they finally announced it so we can talk about it.
Right.
So, but the point is, those trends are coming, and they won't be one vendor. They just won't be. So, people like the Digital Enterprise Society, we could be a clearinghouse for, this is what we learned. This is what's really working. This is what still needs some interesting focus. And focus sometimes is in skills. I think the skills of the designer are going to change. Well, I wouldn't count on the tool vendor explaining that. To be fair to them, it's not really their cup of tea, right? Right. They got to come from people like, well, my old job, what your current job is, Adam, right? What does the leadership want out of the mechanical engineers of the future? Well,
right.
More flexibility for sure.
Right. And if we can put together a platform that pulls all of the vendors together and stops them from doing just a straight sales pitch of show and tell of their current tools, but really trying to focus on us, the end users, I think there's a lot of value in that, because the automotive industry is only standardized on one tool set with the big OEMs. Everybody that supplies to them has to have all the tools because you're not standardized, right?
Yeah.
So we sell to Volkswagen, we sell to Ford, we sell to GM. They're all on different tool sets, therefore we've got them too. So let's talk about how we can optimize what we're doing, not just saying, oh, I've got to have everything under one tool.
Yeah, frankly, I can say this because of where I came from. The arrogance of the OEMs is annoying, right? Because the aircraft guys, the big ones, the commercial ones, they tried to talk a bit with us about why it would be good to have exchanges, right? Literally an ecosystem where everything could be interfaced well, whether it be file exchanges or some kind of real-time thing. We'll just look by the actions. We didn't really show up to help them with that, right? You don't see Ford, GM, and Daimler and Fiat working together to make that happen, right? They're kind of hoping it just happens because somebody else would do it. So I think, I know people like yourselves, tier ones and beyond, if you had a way to say to the OEMs, by golly, if we fix this problem, this collaboration sharing problem, we would all benefit. All of our profit margins would go up a little bit, right? The aerospace guys got the business case where that's true. So I would think it would apply to auto and just scale even higher, right? I don't think your counterparts at the OEMs are able to make that stick. So I'm asking you to do it. I think that tier ones should make the case. Hey, our pricing could be, X instead of X plus 50%. If you would just get to an exchange environment that lets us exchange designs and collaborate better.
Yeah, and there's opportunities for I think the Digital Enterprise Society to be a platform to have those discussions.
Okay, interesting. So the pandemic's melting away. We're going to see each other in the fall. I picked those things up in our conversation. What's DES Plus come October? Are we going to have an event, or do you think we're going to wait and see and maybe ask our members what they want to do?
I would say at this point, it's kind of a wait and see. I don't think we can commit to having an event at this point, but we need to start looking at what an event would look like, because we are going to do one at some point here. So we're bringing in some new board members to help with this stuff. They're going to help us focus on making this podcast even better than it is, helping find new guests that we can bring in. We have some very passionate people working on our career center that'll help people come out of this pandemic on the other side. There was just a previous podcast from Barry that you guys did that spoke about that. That's going to be a big piece of us coming out of this. And yeah, the conferences, I'm hoping that will happen at some point here.
I do think there's pent up, it's a human thing, everybody, right? There's a pent up desire to get together. And I think whoever does the first events, and they need to be safe, but let's assume that for a second, right? Whoever does them, they're going to have overwhelming response because people just want to get out again. And I can't understate that. There was a interaction I had this week with somebody that's associated with the Center for Automotive Research. For everybody around the world, this group meets in Traverse City, Michigan in August, right? And all the auto executives go to it. And somebody was saying, oh, no, they won't have good attendance. And the other guy in the conversation said, oh, no, people are so anxious to get back together, even just to say hello and find out who made it. I think Digital Enterprise Society should be there, and others. And I don't think you can underestimate the enthusiasm human beings will have just to say hello again, face to face, even if we still can't shake hands, right? So
yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah. So you've got our membership listening, those that are participate on a regular basis. What do you want them to know about the Digital Enterprise Society starting in January?
I'd say stick with us. We're going to launch this thing. We've I think struggled to really find focus, but I feel like we have found that at this point with certain foundational things that we've spoken about. If we're able to focus on that, we're able to get them to the point where all of these puzzle pieces come together and the wheels and the machine really starts to churn. I think that we will have a platform for collaboration, a platform for learning that's going to benefit all of us. There's a lot of potential for this. Otherwise, quite frankly, I would have stepped away. But I do think that that we can launch this puppy. If you're interested in volunteering and helping to do that, there's a lot of fun to be had. Let us know. Fill out a volunteer application on our website, and we will get you engaged with all of this stuff. If you have a passion, it's a great opportunity to collaborate. It's a great opportunity to network. Tom's favorite word, right? There's a good opportunities for everybody to get involved.
Well, it definitely seems like right now is a really good time for the Digital Enterprise Society, right? You guys are excited. There's going to be new activities. You're going to keep growing. There's new member benefits. And I loved what you had to say about sort of the pieces of the puzzle, and just a couple of things, to recap a couple of things that you said. You've got the podcast, you've got webinars, you've got the new partner directory that you're working on. There's a look at doing live events or partnering with other groups to do live events. All of this stuff, I think the timing is right. As we come out, we put 2020 behind us and we go forward. I agree with what Craig said, that there is like a pent up desire from people, not only to get back to some semblance of human to human connection, but also to be able to do that while they're learning and advancing, their careers and their companies. So I think maybe you've got a perfect storm coming into 2021.
I think so. I really do.
And it'll be so much better. It's the wind, like here in the Midwest, we just had the tail end of a snowstorm. Actually, our friends to the east are getting it worse. And then after it blows through, the sky is clear, the air is fresh and it's a little chilly, but the point is all kinds of opportunities before us. And we really should look at 2021 the same way on so many bases. Well, Adam, from my point of view and from my heart, I really thank you for stepping up to helping lead us in the next year. And with that, I'll pass it back to Tom. Let's close it up.
Well, before we close up, we do have one thing for people that made it to the end. We have a promo code to join. So there on our website, it is listed as there is a fee to be a Digital Enterprise Society member, but we have been waiving that, and we will continue to waive that for 2021. We think it's appropriate for us to get our feet under ourselves and to show a little value for our members before we start to charge them to be members, right? So if you can join if you want, you can join for free. The code is DES plus 2021. So DES plus sign 2021, and that will allow you to join for free.
All right, everybody, if you're not already a member of the Digital Enterprise Society, right now is the time to do it. You need to jump over to digitalenterprisesociety.org. Remember the code DES plus sign 2021. Big things are coming, and that's super exciting. Adam, thank you so much for stepping up into the role of president. I think I'll refer to you as the Grand Poobah of the Digital Enterprise Society from here on out for the next year. And I know Craig and I are looking forward to, lots of good episodes coming up ahead of this. So everybody, fasten your seatbelt. 2021 is the year for the Digital Enterprise Society podcast. Join us here every single week for more thoughts, ideas, and information in and around product lifecycle management. The Digital Enterprise Society is the place for the exchange of ideas around digital manufacturing tools. Go check us out at digitalenterprisesociety.org.
You've been listening to the Digital Enterprise Society podcast. Learn more about what you heard here today at digitalenterprisesociety.org. Join us again next week for more connection without boundaries and creation without limits.